Hey everyone, welcome back to Philosophical Fall Guy. Here we talk to Hollywood's top stunt performers and go behind the scenes to hear their stories. Then we dive a little deeper to see what they ponder about in those moments of silence between the chaos. I'm your host, Duke Jackson. All right, my next guest has 294 credits according to IMDb and probably more. He has created some of the movie industry's most memorable action sequences. He directed second unit and/or was the stunt coordinator on blockbuster movies such as Bad Boys for Life, Venom, Jumanji, Fate of the Furious, Furious 7, Ride Along 2, Ride Along 1, Fast 5, The Hangover, Part 3, Date Night, Wild Hogs, Austin Powers in Goldmember, Showtime, Money Train, and many more. As, as a stuntman, he has jumped cars and motorcycles through walls of wood, glass, and flame on the Knight Rider and the Dukes of Hazzard. He has taken falls from buildings as high as 12 stories and jumped from exploding boats and mountaintops. He has flown through the air hanging from helicopter struts and streaked through the sky in the F-16 fighter aircraft. He is a past president of Stunts Unlimited, a member of the Directors Guild of America, Screen Actors Guild, and the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. He has been nominated 16 times for Stunt Awards and has went on to win a SAG Award and 5 prestigious Taurus World Stunt Awards, including Best Work with a Vehicle for Bad Boys 2, Best Stunt Coordinator and Second Unit Directing for Fast 5, Best Work with a Vehicle for Furious 7, and Best Work with a Vehicle for Venom. His preparation, precision, and safety practices are well known and followed throughout the business. I'm proud to welcome legend and stunt icon, Jack Gill. All right. Thank you so much for being here today, sir. It's an honor.
Sure, I appreciate it. This is a lot of fun. I haven't heard that read in a long time, so
Yeah,
goes on
yeah,
forever.
it's quite a bio. I basically took it off of the IMDb because it was so well done. You can't really top that. So that's it's off of there. But yeah, man, I've been hoping for this opportunity for a while. So this is awesome. Thank you for being here.
Sure.
We don't have a lot of time, so we'll jump right in. Where did you grow up and what did you do before stunts?
I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia.
Really?
My father, yeah, this kind of odd. My father was the commander of Dobbins Air Force Base in the military, and my father ended up being a two-star general in the Air Force at the Pentagon. But when I
Star
was
General.
young, yeah, he's a two-star general. So,
Crazy.
I, as I was growing up, I was racing motorcycles and I became a pro motocross racer at 14
Wow.
and was making a pretty good living at it. By the time I got to be, 17, 18, my father was looking at me to go into the military. And he said, "You're making a pretty good living as a motocross racer. I'm not going to force you to do anything you don't want to do. So if you want to
Hmm.
continue racing motocross as long as it's profitable and you enjoy it, let's do that."
Hmm.
And so he allowed me to continue racing motocross, which is what I wanted to do. And I had won this race down in Florida, and I was checking out. It was a Monday morning, and I was checking out of the local motel, and my picture was in the local paper there, and it said I had won these 3 races: the 125 class, the 250 class, and the open class. And they
Wow.
had a picture of me in there. And as I was checking out, this guy next to me saw us on the paper, saw me, and then looked over and said, "Did you win all those races?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "So
Huh.
you're pretty good on a motorcycle?" And I said, "Well, I guess I am." And he goes, "Well, you think you can jump a motorcycle over a bunch of cars?" And I said, "If
Hmm.
I can pick the motorcycle and I can pick the ramp, then probably, if it's not too long." And that guy was Hal Needham, who was there shooting Gator at the time in Florida. And he said, "Pack all your stuff up, come out to California, and I'll get you started on jumping over cars. And that's what got me started in the business. So it was kind
That
of a
is
fluke thing.
amazing. Yeah.
And
So
I
was he
became
just
really
there
good.
watching the race? Hal Needham? He what
He was there doing Gator and
Oh,
had been there scouting locations. And when he was checking out, he was just in there, came in there to get a cup of coffee and just happened to meet me at the front desk and saw
oh my
my
gosh.
picture in the paper. And back then,
That
I
is
got to
crazy.
say, in in 76, 77, there weren't many motorcycle guys that were stunt people that were really proficient at it. I mean, there were a
Mm,
handful, maybe three or
mm,
four. Most of them were
yeah.
horsebackers and they were very good at what they did. But Hal
Mhm.
wanted to bring in more motorcycle guys because that's kind of where the trend of what the business was going to, motorcycle and car guys. So it was just a
Right.
fluke that I met him.
Wow, that is amazing to meet, like, the number 1, like, legendary stunt guy and have him just, like, come up to you and say, "Hey, you wanna jump some cars?" That's like that's crazy, man.
Well,
Wow.
and the great part about it was that when he taught me so much about the business without really getting involved, he would
Mm.
say, once we you get to California and you do this jump, I don't want you throwing my name around like you and I are best friends. I want you to not say that you know me. You can come into the office and talk to me whenever you want, or you can call me on the phone. But if
Hmm.
you start throwing my name around, you're going to open doors that you couldn't have gotten on your own. And I want you to try and do this all on your own, which
Wow.
makes you want it more.
Yeah,
And I think
yeah.
that really helped me in the business more than anything. And I've strived to do that with people that I meet in the business and I'm trying to help them is to try and let them do it on their own because they have to learn how to
Mm,
get through a business that's very tough to get into. And, the good thing about having Hal kind of in the background is that I can call him up and say, "Hey, I'm going to go to do this interview tomorrow with such and such. What do you know about him?" And he said, "Oh, God, this guy thinks he's the best motorcycle guy in the world. So don't talk about motorcycles. Talk about cars or high falls or something else. But if you start
uh,
talking about motorcycles, he will hate you right off the bat." And so those things are very helpful when you're going in for an
yeah,
interview. And
yeah,
later on in the business, Hal said, once you get established enough that I see you're working all the time, then I'll start hiring you. And he called me up on Dukes of Hazard when I had been driving the General Lee for a couple of years and said, "I heard you're doing
wow,
pretty good in the General Lee." And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Want to come do Cannonball with me?" So then I did Cannonball 1 and 2 and then Megaforce with him. And we became really good friends
wow,
after that. And I petitioned to get Hal Needham the governor's award. And it took me about 5 years to try and get all the paperwork involved and get all the signatures and get all of that. And he finally won the award. And a year
yeah,
after he won the governor's award and got his Oscar, he died after that. So when
wow.
I was standing with him with his Oscar at the Academy Awards, he came up and said, "You know what? I guess it's a good thing I got you in the business." And I said, "You know what? You did this all on your own. It's just your
Yeah,
stature in the business is beyond what anybody would ever believe." And he really
yeah.
deserved that Oscar. So
Oh, he
I
sure
kind of
did.
feel like it had all come fruition from the time that he found me and the time that we finally parted ways.
Yeah, that's cool. The whole story just kinda made a big circle.
It
Yeah,
did. Yeah.
that's pretty awesome. Um, well, you kinda answered my next one, which was how you got in the business, so that was your first, stunt job was doing
Right.
that. So what show was that? What movie was that for again that you jumped those
Well,
cars?
originally it was called Do It in the Dirt, and it was a motorcycle racing picture. Now, Hal originally got me in the business on Gator,
Oh, he
when
did?
I was just there one day and really didn't do anything. It was just in a car. But the motorcycle jump was the first big stunt that I did. And it ended up, did a whole bunch of things. Nobody's ever seen this picture. It's a very small picture, but it got my feet wet and I got involved in the business and I started doing a lot of motorcycle stuff. And then Dukes of Hazard came around. And when Dukes of
Mm,
Hazard came in, John Schneider and I, who was Bo Duke, we went to the same high school in Sandy Springs. It was called North
no
Springs High
way.
School.
That's
So
crazy.
yeah, when John became Bo Duke, this guy named Gary Baxley, who was friends with one of the second directors, said, "I know you and John are friends. You want to come in and double John and jump the car?" And John is 6'4" and I'm only 6 feet, so I couldn't really
Wow.
double him outside the car too much, but I could do all the car stuff. So I came in and doubled him in the car and drove the General Lee for 4 years. So that was a ton of fun. And then I went on from to do that to do Knight Rider. I did Fall Guy for a little while, for a couple of years, and double Lee
Yeah.
Majors. But
Yeah.
then I
Then
did
you
Knight
double D
Rider.
majored? Nice. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah, and that was a fun deal because it all dealt with stunt people, and
Yeah.
every single week we were doing things that were kind of mirrored what the stunt, business was about, and it was a lot of fun to
Mhm.
try and shoot things that we were actually doing in real life.
Yeah. Wow, that's cool. Yeah. Kinda you can kinda show a little bit behind the scenes of what stunt people actually do, and yeah. I love that show. I think every stunt guy of my era grew up watching that show and influenced him quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
and it was fun to have a group of people around there that understood the stunt business well enough that everything that we did was kind
mhm,
of cutting edge for a TV series because
mhm,
Dukes of Hazzard started jumping cars, which nobody had ever done before. And I probably did 100 plus car jumps on that show. And then when you get into Fall Guy, everybody was Fall Guy and Riptide and A Team, and there were just a ton of action TV shows back there.
mhm.
They
I
were all
remember.
doing big car stunts, and
Yep.
those had never been seen before. And Smokey and the Bandit is what started it all,
Yep.
because that jump across the bridge out ravine was
Mhm,
something that Alan Gibbs did. And after that jump, everybody wanted to see that, and that's what
mhm,
became action TV.
mhm. Yeah. Yeah. What's, a couple of big jumps that stand out in your mind? Can you tell us about that?
Boy, there've been a bunch of them. I jumped generally through the second story of a huge barn, and it was
Wow.
one of the very. I'd already done 30 or 40 jumps before that, but this was the first
Mhm,
jump. Everybody was hurting their back or breaking their back at that time when we started doing jumps. Everybody was trying to do it on other things, and a lot of stunt people were breaking their back. And
hmm,
so on Dukes of Hazzard, two of the stunt people came up with this idea of building a stunt jump harness. And I was the guinea pig, which is, at the time, I thought this was the craziest thing they could ever strap me into. But it was essentially, if you think about a woman's corset, it fits just around your rib cage, doesn't
uh,
encompass your rear end at all. It just fixed around your rib cage, and then
huh,
has two straps over each shoulder. And then they would tie you by bungee cord into the top of the roll bar above your head, and you'd stand up as high as you could get to the ceiling, and they would get it as tight as they could get it. Then they would push you and stretch you down into a 5 point harness. So now
uh,
you're suspended underneath your armpits by this corset, and your butt is about 2 inches off of the seat. So when the
interest
car impacts on the other side, all that weight and all that transfer doesn't compress your spine. It pulls underneath your armpits, keeps your
uh,
back from compressing. And that's what, to this day, has kept
that's
people from
genius.
breaking their back. So I was the guinea pig for the very first one. So that was an iconic jump for me.
Wow, and that jump into the barn was the one where they tried that the first time?
Yeah, we had never really done anything through anything. I jumped over lakes and over ravines and over other cars,
Mhm,
and we'd done a lot of stuff like that, but going through something was a little more difficult. So they spent
mhm,
half a day with chainsaws, chainsawing all the tops of the roof because it was a real barn. And
mm,
so it wasn't built for, out of plywood. It was built out of really heavy duty wood. So they were
wow,
going in there and sawing everything. And the pictures that you see of the jump, if somebody has seen it on my website, is that as I went through it, they missed one big 4x4, 20-foot long piece of wood, and as I came
uh,
out the other side, it hit it right in the very front of the car and picked the front end up. And I
wow,
landed right on the tail end of the car on the other side, and the car turned over twice on the other side.
wow,
But luckily, I was not hurt at all. And the jump harness saved my back, and everything else was
yeah,
great. But after that, we used the jump harness for every single jump we ever did, and even transferred over to Fall Guy and transferred to Knight
mm,
Rider. And to this day, like I say, it's still in use.
that is cool. Wow, that's a pretty cool piece of history right there. That's neat,
It's
thank you.
it's one
Yeah,
that when they were strapping me in it, I was going, "You guys are out of your mind. How do you think this is gonna work?" But they were right. I was wrong.
huh. Who came up with that idea, do you remember? Was it just
Yeah,
like a bunch of
Jerry
guys?
Summers. Jerry Summers was one of the stunt guys on Dukes of Hazzard. He was a regular, and then Bobby Orison was the other stunt guy that was
Mm,
on there as a regular, and they both came up together and said, "We've got this idea, and Jack's going to be the guinea pig." And these guys were pretty smart guys, and they
Jack's
were a
gonna
lot
be the
older than
guinea
I were.
pig.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty awesome, man. So, what about the 12-story? High fall. What was that for?
So that was a thing called Jumping Jack Flash, and it was a movie of the week, and it was about a guy who gets saved by a superhero. He's going to commit suicide. He's standing up on top of a 12-story building, and his life is over, and his wife has left him. He's lost his job, and he's pleading with everybody that's down below him that they just want to see him jump. They don't want to see him live through this, and everybody hates him. And
Mhm.
as I was doing the dialogue, I had about a half a page of dialogue before I'm going to jump. The director had said, go ahead and put yourself in a harness and tie yourself to the building, and we'll do all the dialogue till you're ready to go. And once I had done two or three takes and I get what I want, I'll say, okay, now, and we're just going to disconnect you from your back and you can go whenever you're ready after that. Just overlap the last line of dialogue. And I said, okay, fine. So I did like three takes. And he said, and the airbag's down below me the whole time. And at that time, the biggest airbag built was a man named Bob Yerkes, who had airbags from the circus,
Yeah.
was
Yes.
18 feet by 24 feet. And that was as big as they had come back then. They were only 8 feet tall. And
Mm.
from 12 stories, that was a long way to go to hit an
Yeah.
8 foot tall airbag, but that's all we
Yeah.
had. So we had set it up. When I first set it up, I deflate the airbag and I take a look at it, and I'm standing up there hooked into my harness and ready to go. I'm tied to the building, and I have a like a 12-pound sandbag in my hand. And I
Uh,
just lean out and toss the sandbag. And I did it 5 times to see what parameters I would carry out from the building. And then I put the airbag in the middle of where all that spot was where the sandbags would hit. And it was
yeah.
about 12 feet from the edge of the building. It was a long way out, the
Wow.
edge of the building. But from, well, 125 feet, your body does carry out on the arc.
Right.
So I had it about 12 feet out. I took the elevator ride up to the top of the building, got hooked into my harness again, got out on the top of the building, stood out there ready to go. They said action. I did all the lines of dialogue. And as I'm doing it, they said, okay, we're ready to go. And my safety guys unhooked me. And I said the last three lines of dialogue. And then I went to step. And the minute I got committed out and was over, one building over on the parapet where people were all watching, they started screaming at the top of their lungs.
Oh,
And
what
I
really?
thought, uh-oh, I wasn't either supposed to go or the airbag's not ready because I had not really looked down at the airbag, but it was always inflated. So I didn't think it maybe, but we had a
Right.
power outage. So the whole way down, I'm thinking something's wrong.
Something's
And as I
wrong.
looked at the airbag, I went, "Oh shit!" I don't know if I can say shit, but anyway, I I I
It's
went off
fine.
and I said, "I'm going to overshoot it. I'm going to be long." And so I kind of tucked over as early as I could and got flat and tucked my feet in and just hit the top side of the airbag and got my whole body on it. And when I
Wow.
came out of the airbag, I went, holy God, how could I have overshot it that bad? And my safety guys came over and said, that guy over there, that producer, made us pull the bag in 5 feet because he said, you're never going to go out that far.
Oh my
And we
God.
pulled
You
it in
kidding
five
me?
feet. And from that day on, we made a pact among all the stunt people in the business, and we got the word out pretty quickly that once we said it, nobody changes
Nobody
anything.
touches it.
And they
Wow.
thought because he's the producer and paying their salary, they had to move it in, but they should have
Listen.
told me,
Yeah.
but they didn't. So
Huh.
could have killed me.
That's
If it had been
crazy.
2 more feet, it'd have probably killed me. But luckily, I
Mm.
made the high fall. Everything worked great, and it was something that was scary at the time, but you do benefit from the knowledge that you get from it.
Mm. Well, it's curious to me because you come from the, motorcycle background and then kinda transferred into doing a lot of the car stunts, but, I mean, doing a 120-foot high fall, like, that's huge. Like, I mean, that's like
I
a
had done
high fall specialist expertise. How did you transition into doing such a high fall?
well, and my background was gymnastics as well as all through
Okay.
high school I was doing a bunch of gymnastics and stuff. But I got to say, I worked up to that. I did a bunch of little things like 20 footers and then 30 footers. Then
Mhm.
I did a 60 foot high fall off of this cliff for a show called Frank Buck, Bring 'em Back Alive. And so I was doing a lot of, 50, 60, 70 footers,
Mm.
but I went from 70 feet all the way up to 125, which is a big stretch
It's a
for any
huge
of
jump.
us.
Yeah.
And when you're standing up there on the edge, looking over the edge, the airbag at 18 by 24 feet looks like a postage stamp.
Yeah. Yeah.
So luckily, in today's world, they have really, really large airbags that you really can't miss.
Mhm.
But back then, if you did not hit flat from that height, you just would either break your back or it would kill you or something like that. So,
Yeah.
there
Or it could
were
bounce you off the
it bounce you
airbag
off,
too. Yeah.
and there's a lot of different. I mean, we had practiced before I had done that 125 footer. I had done a lot of 40 footers into the bag just to see how much the vent should be open and how hard we're going to
Mhm.
hit it. And it was
Mhm.
canvas back then, a really hard canvas. So when
Oh,
it hit, you really were seeing stars for a while because it rung your
yeah.
belt pretty hard. Now the
Yeah.
airbags are much more lighter material and they're a lot
Mhm.
softer.
Yeah, and they got the 2 stages in them a lot now too.
They do. Yeah, we didn't have two
Awesome.
stages back then.
Yeah. Wow. Wow, that's awesome. So what about there's one picture, and by the way, I'll put these pictures up when I post this, of, all these things I'm talking about, but, there's one where looks like you're jumping off a cliff and there's a huge explosion. I mean, it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
crazy huge behind you. I'm like, what in the world is that for?"
This was before I was married, and I was pretty young in the business. And I had been practicing and doing a lot of air ram explosions on TV shows for
Mhm,
this guy named Kenny Indoso, who invented his version of the air ram, which is kind of like a gymnastics beat board that you run and step on. It's a springboard and it springs you up higher in the air. But this is an air ram is built on hydraulic devices. And when you step on it, it
mhm,
keys off a switch that then fires this thing in the air and pushes you up in the air a lot further and a lot faster than anything else. And if you're not, on your game, it can break your leg and
mhm.
it's that
Right.
quick.
Yeah.
So anyway, they had called me up and they had said, we've got this thing where this guy is running on top of a cliff at night and this airplane comes down and drops napalm behind him. And we want to see the napalm follow him off the cliff as he dives off the cliff. And we want a big fireball behind him as he dives through the air and he lands on the ground. And we think he's dead and he rolls over and he's okay. Well, the cliff they picked, I didn't have any decision in picking it. But when I got there, five other stuntmen had already turned it down. And when they called me, I said, let me go out and take a look at it. And I looked at it. I said, the problem with it is that you're running at a cliff at night and you can't see the airbag until you've already hit the air ram. So if you're
Mhm,
off by 6 or 7 inches, you're going to be off by 6 or 7 feet on the
mm,
other side. So
mhm,
I've got to really be lined up. And then I've got to get the closest they could get the airbag to the edge of cliff was about 20 feet. And
mm,
so I had to really get out a long way. And on flat ground with an air ram, I could do about 21 or 22 feet. So I figured on my best gag, if I could really get out there, the momentum will carry me the rest of the way
mm.
with the arc until you start dropping just straight down. So I said yes to it.
How high was the, fall?
65 feet. So it
65
was
feet.
a long way
Wow.
down.
Yeah.
Some say 70. I don't know. It was between 65 and 70. And when I had gotten out there, we loaded it all up. I had practiced on flat ground. I was getting 20 to 21, 22 feet most of the time to pads on
Mm,
flat ground. So we
mm,
set it all up. And then this effects guy puts this enormous big steel container vat dug into the ground and he starts filling up with gasoline. And it's right behind my air ram. And I said,
right behind
so
it?
yeah, it's like sitting right 2 feet from it. And I said,
Wow.
and we didn't have fire gel back then. All we had was water. So we
Oh
just
my
wet me down and I got all as wet as I could get. And then I said, so if the air ram doesn't fire, does the gasoline go off? And he said, yeah, it's kicked into the switch. So my switch is going to go off whether yours goes off or not. And I went, oh yeah, okay, that's not a good sign.
what?
So I went, took the air ram and rehearsed on flat ground, and twice it didn't fire.
Oh,
And so
man.
I went back over to the stunt coordinator. I said, we can't do this. This thing is
Yeah,
misfired twice. And I can't
yeah.
be standing on top of that thing when 13 gallons of gasoline goes off. So
Yeah,
the director
13.
went ape shit and started screaming and yelling and saying we had to shoot this because we were losing the night. And luckily, the guy that owned the air rams, Kenny Indoso, said, I'll go back to my house in Burbank, and we were in Valencia, California at the time. It was about 45 minutes for him. You go back. He goes, I'll go back and get another air ram, bring it back here. I can get back here before the light comes up, and let's try that. So
Mm.
directors went and shot something else. Kenny went there, came back, brought another air ram. We put it, mounted it on top of a big piece of plywood with all the bottles on it. And I did four consecutive, air ram hits to flat ground that fired all four times. And I said, don't disconnect anything. Let's pick the whole thing up as one piece and bring it out here to the cliff. And don't anybody touch anything. And we put it on the edge of the cliff and got all set up to go. And the director's screaming and yelling. And then they hand me a real M16. And I went,
What?
what happened to the rubber one? I mean, we talked about a rubber M16. He goes, well, we don't have the rubber one. All I have is a real M16. And I said, there's 8 cameras down there with camera guys, and I'm going to throw, a 14-pound gun in the air at night. They're never going to see it. So
Yeah.
now we had to start building plywood barricades over the tops of the things, and that took more time. And
Huh.
this now it's another 45 minutes later, and the sun's starting to come up, and we're getting ready to do this, and everybody's on their edge. And I'm
Yeah.
standing up there ready to go, and we roll cameras. And as we roll cameras and I'm getting ready to go, we hear this cut, cut, cut. Hey, the medic down here wants to know what blood type the stunt guy is in case he gets burned. And I said, you know what? At this point, we're past that. Let's just do this and
Just
get over
do
it.
it.
Let's just roll the cameras and let's go. I don't want to have any more interruptions. And
Yeah.
so they roll cameras. I get ready to go. I look over at the effect guy. He gives me the thumbs up. I run and hit the air ram. It fires perfectly. And I go flying through the air. And it felt like when the gasoline went off in back of me, it felt like somebody had taken the flat side of a shovel and hit me in the back with it.
Wow.
Um, because
Huh.
it's just a concussion of all this stuff going through the air. Luckily, it looks like it's really close to me, but it was still about 8 to 10 feet behind me because the air ram was so fast. And I'm flying through the air. And as I'm flying through the air looking for the airbag, I see people running all the other direction. And I'm thinking, oh shit! Either they're trying to get out away from the AR-15 I'm throwing, or I'm going to miss the bag, and they're worried that I'm going to hit the ground. But I see the bag, and it's coming up great. So I turn over, and I had put a big tarp on top of my airbag in case I was on fire. When I hit the tarp would then pop around me and put me out.
Uh,
I wasn't on fire. They had another 8 gallons of gasoline going off on the side of the cliff that pops out. That missed me, luckily. And
wow.
I
Did you
hit the
know about that
airbag.
one?
I knew about it. I just didn't know how big it
Mm.
was going to be, and it was
Uh,
quite large.
right.
Um,
Wow.
but I hit the tarp. It worked perfectly. The tarp comes around me. I get all the safety guys are there. And I found out everybody was running because of all the gasoline they had in the air was filtering down, and they thought it was going to hit them.
Gonna hit him. Oh, wow.
Everybody was running back the other way, and everybody was fine. But it was one of those types of things that scared you at the time. And then the safety guys get to me and everything's fine. And this is the caveat to it all, is it is the opening sequence to this movie. There is no title, there is no credit, there is no nothing. You just hear a guy running a toss the cop the thing, footsteps, and you see him running full tilt, and then the explosion happens. And that's the opening of the movie, was this explosion and me hit the ground, and then the titles all come up.
Oh, wow.
So
So
it's called
that
The Exterminator, and it's very
exterminator?
The Exterminator. Yeah, most people
Exterminator.
don't know anything about it, but it was starring Robert Ginty. And
Mm.
I got a gold cross pin, which was kind of elite back then, from the director, and got paid a whopping $750 for that. And at the time of my career, I was happy for it.
Wow. What
It
year
was
was that?
something that was, I just wanted to be able to do something that people said couldn't be done. Now,
Yeah.
having said
Yeah.
that, I would never do it again. Never in a million years. I'd never try and do that again. In today's
Yeah.
world, they would do it as two separate pieces. You'd probably do
Sure.
the air ram on a
Totally
wire,
different.
or they just do
Yeah.
the whole thing on wires and then put the explosion in later
Yeah.
with a
And then
light
a green
effect.
screen
But back
behind you
then,
so they could put the
yeah,
explosion in. Yeah.
yeah, we just didn't have that back then. So,
No. But that's
and
why
I
it's
hit
the
the,
glory days of the stunts, right? I mean, that's when you guys are doing stuff that are legendary that would just nobody would do anymore, I mean,
well, and we had a lot of injuries, but that's because
yes.
we were breaking ground. And like I
Yeah.
say, in Hal Needham's world, he had a lot more injuries than I have had, and he was doing stuff, that nobody had ever done before. And that was just, nowadays, there's a lot more ingenuity that go into it. And the fact that we can
Mhm,
access the internet and find
mhm,
out things that other people did, and kind of you learn from the mistakes and from the things that went right, and you try and make them better. And I think that's helped the
mhm.
business out quite a lot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. What year was that movie? Do you remember?
78 or 9, something like that.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Wow.
Yeah.
So air rams were coming into the scene way back then even, huh? I didn't
They
realize
were, yeah, they were the hottest thing
they've been
going
around for a
back
while.
then, and I was kind of the air ram guy because
Oh,
I
okay.
was testing all the new stuff to do, like, and we did stuff that never came to fruition. It was crazy stuff that we were doing. Like, air rams were working so well for explosions that they were using them in everything, and they were
Yeah,
very helpful because before that, you just used a mini tramp, a little thing with
yeah.
springs on it, and what happened is you would jump down in the mini tramp and you would see the stunt guy like
It
penetrate
is.
what's supposed to be the ground and then
Mhm,
spring out of it. And they can only cut to it once you were moving through the scene. But once
mhm,
you've got an air ram, it was so instantaneous. You could use the whole thing
mhm,
right from the get go, right to the explosion. And it was,
mhm,
it was seamless. So it was
mhm.
something that was very beneficial for all of us at that time. And we used them in a lot of things. And
Yeah.
I got blown off of a boat for the TV series Riptide, and they put it down in the bottom of this boat. And I
Uh-huh.
looked at all the explosives on the boat, and I talked to the guy that owned the boat, and I said, "You realize they have like 3 5-gallon gasoline containers on the boat? It's your boat." He goes, "Yeah, but it's going to be in a TV series." And I went, "But it's real fire. You realize?" He goes, "Yeah, yeah, but we can paint it. We'll paint the
We
boat
can
later."
paint it.
So I did this big air ram explosion off this boat into water, and it just charred this guy's boat. But he wanted it to be in a
Wow.
TV show.
Yeah. I you sent me a picture of that too, so I'll have to put that one up too. But, that Riptide, that was for Riptide, the
That was
TV
for
show
Riptide,
Riptide?
and yeah, and
Yeah, I remember that one.
at the time, most of the air rams, Kenny and Doso's air ram was so fast that very few people could get off of them consistently. I
Mhm,
mean, because it would buckle your leg.
mhm.
And at that time, before we found out that you need to put a safety switch on it, if it buckled your leg and it threw you up in the air and you landed back on the air ram and it fired again,
Oh,
it
wow.
usually would hit you in the head or hit you in the back and it would break something. And
Yeah.
we had an instance where a guy missed it. It threw him up in the air and he landed on top of it. It fired again and hit him in the head, and it was catastrophic. He had, really bad injuries. So we put
Wow.
a switch on it so it would only fire once. So when
Mm,
you hit it after it fired once, it would never fire again until you re-engaged it again. And that was
mm.
something we learned just from, you know, hit and miss.
Right. Wow. It's the things you learn the hard way, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome. So that was the boat explosion actually. What was the F-16 for? What did you, ride in an F-16 for?
I had done, since my father was a two-star general, I was going to do an Air Force Reserve commercial with Bruce Jenner. And my father heard about it, and he heard that we were going to fly to Salt Lake City to do this Air Force Reserve commercial. And all we
Uh-huh.
were going to do was I was going to walk out of an airplane fire and say, Join the Air Force Reserve. It's a great place to serve." And Jenner was going to do something else, and we were going to get paid for it. And my father said, "If you guys want to donate your money for the commercial back to the Air Force Reserve, I'll get you guys a ride in the F-16, and you're going to get to fly it separately. And
What?
you'll fly with the Top Gun guys." And I said, "We'll do that in a second." So we had about a
Yeah.
day of flight school, and they teach you about, how to get out of an F-16, what the ejection routine is, how to
Uh-huh.
pull G's, and we did all this other stuff. And then once we got to fly it, you're in there with the guy who had been one of the Top Gun winners, and he lets you fly for like 20 minutes. And so
My
you come in, you
god,
do
that's
inversions.
amazing.
It was unbelievable. And to be able to witness, like sitting on the ground, we're sitting on the runway ready to go, and the pilot,
Uh-huh.
he's sitting down in front, and you're sitting in the back seat, way up high, and all you got is canopy around you. And he says, "So I'm going to go full afterburner with
Mhm.
the brakes on. And when I'm in full afterburner, the engine's going to start shaking, and the aircraft's going to shaking like crazy because it wants to go. Please put your helmet against
Uh-huh.
the back of the headrest. because when I flip the brakes off, it's going to be like a shot out of a cannon. And then we're going to go straight off the runway, vertical to
Yeah.
14,000 feet. And then we're going to roll over on its back. And it was so
Oh
instantaneous.
my
Is definitely what he said, like being shot out of a cannon. So it was tons of fun. And
wow.
my wife was there with my
What a
newborn daughter,
rush.
and she thought we were all crazy, but Bruce Jenner and I both got to fly. I flew the first day, and then Bruce flew the second day. And to be able to do something like that, and the
Uh,
fun part about it was that they gave us an experience that you could never pay for. So it
right.
was something that was so much fun, and they got a lot of advertisement out of it because of who Bruce was, not because of
Uh,
who I was, but the
yeah.
fact that I was married to Morgan Brittany and she was doing Dallas at the time, they got a lot of exposure from that as well. So I think it was helpful for them, but for us, we got so much more out of it. I talk about that ride more than anything I've ever done in the stunt business, just because it's something that in our business, you'd just be sitting on a soundstage in a mock-up F-16 going through all the
Right.
sequences,
Yeah.
not really doing anything. But
Mhm.
they give you a 9G pin because we pulled 9.2 Gs,
Did you
and
really?
it's
Wow.
that's you only pull it for half a second, but
Yeah.
it knocked me out. I mean, I was
I was gonna
unconscious,
say,
and
that probably knocked you out, huh?
yeah, and he
My
tells you, he goes, "Look, you're gonna go out, you're gonna go gray, and when you come back, you'll see all the instruments will come back in there, and you'll see where you are, but you are gonna go out, but that'll get you your 9G pin," and that was pretty cool.
That's awesome. 9 Gs, wow. Was that when you were pulling up to the 14,000 feet or
He does a thing where he pulls a 4G turn, a left-hand turn where he's arcing
uh,
around himself. And so you're pulling this hard 4G turn and you're screaming in your lungs trying to keep the blood up into your brain. The more you
oh,
can scream, the more you can keep the blood in your brain to stay alive or stay awake. Because
interesting.
if you don't keep those arteries pumping blood up in it, you'll pass out pretty quickly. And he wants you to experience. So he said, "Go ahead and start screaming. I'll kick our volume down, and I'm gonna be screaming too." And
Uh,
then as he's pulling a full 4G turn, he just whips it over and pulls back hard the other direction. And the minute you whip over and start pulling the hard direction, that's when you hit 9 Gs. And he
wow.
pulls the other direction, and I was out by then.
You're just out. Boom.
Yeah.
Wow, wow, that is so cool, man. Uh, yeah, I think that's gotta be probably one of the biggest rushes you could experience right there. Um,
And they get to do it every day. And they thought what I did was a big rush, because he
yeah,
said, "You get to think up all these things and do all these different things." He goes, "We're doing the same thing every day, and you're doing something different."
yeah.
And I said, "Yeah, but mine essentially could kill me at any day. And unless you guys go to war, I guess you could have a malfunction. But
Mhm,
you are doing dangerous things every day. But we do stuff that's more unexpected. You don't really know what the outcome is."
exactly, yeah,
And in today's stunt world, you kind of looked at all of things that could happen, and
mhm,
the risks are still down than what they were, in my day and in Hal Needham's day. And I think that's a good thing. I think that's great. It keeps
mhm.
us more safe.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, definitely, yeah. There's no reason for anybody to be getting injured or worse, just for a movie, no matter
Right.
how cool it
Yeah.
is. Yeah. Um, so the night that we were there, you were telling us, some stories about, when you were training the guys to ride motorcycles for the movie, Wild Hogs,
Oh, yeah.
and you had some cool stories. Would you mind sharing some of that experience with us?
Yeah. When I started Wild Hogs, we knew that Disney wanted the actors to all ride together on Harley Davidsons out on the open road.
Mhm,
And I had said nobody had ever tried that before, because one of the problems you have is that you have $1 million actors riding big, heavy motorcycles inches apart. And if one guy catches a handlebar on the other guy's motorcycle, they all four go down. And all four of your $1 million actors are all going to the hospital. There's no doubt about that.
mhm,
And you're shut down until they get better again. So, do you really
mhm.
want to take that chance?
Right.
And, Disney came back and said, "Let's see how they do. If you start training them." And at the time, John Travolta and Tim Allen could both ride very proficiently. They were good.
Mhm,
Didn't really have to worry about them. But Martin Lawrence and Bill Macy, had no training whatsoever, other than Martin Lawrence could ride quads, but he
Okay.
knew throttle control and he knew brakes, but he just
Mhm.
wasn't really, he'd never really ridden a motorcycle. So
Different balance and everything
yeah,
on it.
so I said,
Yeah.
let's start over at my house. And I have a house with 22 acres and a lot of open pastures where they can ride. And I said, start them on mini bikes. We're going to start them on little bitty 50cc mini bikes, and I'm going to pad them all up and put helmets on them. And we'll get them out there and start training them on mini bikes so they learn throttle control and brake control.
Mhm.
And it took about 2 or 3 weeks before we got them, Bill Macy and Martin Lawrence, to where they could really do well. Had
Mhm.
Ray Liotta there as well at times because he had to ride.
Mhm.
And over that period, there's a learning curve. And as the learning curve got better, I could move them up to a 100cc bike and then up to a 250. Now, even at a 250, it still doesn't weigh anything what a Harley weighs.
Mhm.
And so it took a while to move from a 250 up to like 1,000cc motorcycle because
Yeah.
the weight is so much different.
Yeah. It's
And
huge.
we after about 3 weeks, we got out onto my roads around my house. And at the time, we're riding just me and one person. We're not riding them as a pack. I'm teaching them individually. And we would go out and they would just ride with me. And I'd say, try and get close to me. And I knew that I could dive out if they got too close to me.
Mhm.
But the other actors don't know to do that. So, you know, it took a while to get them used to riding close to me around. And most of the roads around my house, there's no traffic. You don't have
Mhm.
to really worry about traffic and everything. And so I got them used to that. And then once we got them better on bigger motorcycles, I said, now is the time where we're going to start riding close to each other. So I took
Mhm.
each one of them out on big Harleys. And I said, I'm going to ride really close to you. And I want to see if you can just hold a line.
Mhm.
Took them a while. That was a learning curve that took a little longer than I expected because
Mhm.
Harleys don't change direction quickly. You
Mhm.
can start to move, and a big, heavy Harley doesn't move until half a second after you
Mhm.
have made the move to move it.
Mhm.
So they had to learn that. And once they got really good with it, you could see their excitement grow. Bill Macy was the one that got so excited about motorcycles that he
Oh,
was
yeah.
so involved in it. He was just happy as a lark to come by anytime. He said, if you got time tomorrow, I'll come by tomorrow. I want to come by and ride tomorrow. And he was so excited about it. But as we were doing it, I was talking to John Travolta and Tim Allen saying, hey, I think these guys are getting close. Once we get to Arizona, I want to try and put you all guys together. And we're going to ride as a team, not on camera, just as a group. And they all said, yeah, we're ready to do it. So we all flew to Arizona. Everybody was getting ready. We were in prep. I rented 4 motorcycles and I said, this is not going to be with anybody else other than us. You guys are going to be in full coverage helmets so nobody can see who you are. We don't have to have an entourage. It's going to be you four guys and me. And I'm going to take you on this 12-mile loop that takes you to the top of this ski resort. It's the middle of summer. There won't be anybody there. And
Mhm.
we're going to stop at the top and then we're going to ride the 12-mile loop back down. And then we're going to stop for lunch somewhere. And we're going to start off really, really wide. And once
Mhm.
I see you guys are in control, we'll get everybody all together and we'll get closer and closer. Everybody was really happy. We all get out there. We start riding on this little 2-lane road. I had ridden it 4 or 5 times before I knew all the little turns and everything. And I was really amazed at how much better they got quickly riding with each other
Mhm.
because they communicated. And look, sorry, can we pause this? I've got a phone ringing that I didn't know was
Yeah,
going to
sure,
ring.
go right ahead, grab it, yeah,
I don't think I can do this real quick.
okay.
Okay. Now, so as we're riding and we're going through all of this, I noticed that they're doing really well. So I
Mhm.
start tightening them all up and I'm tightening them all up to now they're riding 4 abreast and I'm filming it with a camera I've got on my helmet and with another person that's riding out in front in
Mhm.
a car. And so we're getting all this stuff. It's looking really good. And we're going all the way up to the top of the hill. I'm thinking, this is going to really work. This is going to be really, really good. We're going to get to ride $4 million actors all side by side for this
Nice.
movie. We get all the way to the top of the ski resort. We all stop. We get off. Everybody's high five and everybody's happy. And as we're just taking a break and talking about it, I see all 4 actors go over to the edge of this cliff and they start talking. And as they're talking, they all start urinating together like 4 guys do. They're all standing side by side and they're peeing off the cliff.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'm going to put that in the movie. I'm going to put that in when these guys go out in the movie. And so in the movie, you
Yep.
see my four stunt guys on a cliff, and we all had sparkless water bottles, and they're squeezing water bottles as if they're peeing off the cliff. But I got that idea from the actors
From the
who
actual
were all
actors
doing it on
themselves.
a cliff on a ski resort. So it
That's
all ended
awesome.
up coming out great. And luckily, in the entire movie, nobody went down while they were riding. The only thing that really happened was a couple of guys dropped their motorcycles once they stopped trying to get
Wow.
off. Either a kickstand didn't go down right, or they just lost their balance and let it go. And they had learned from all of this procession of us learning that if you feel it starting to go, get away from the motorcycle. Don't let it land on you. It weighs
Mm,
way too much money. I mean, it
mm,
weighs way too much weight for it to
yeah,
land on an ankle or land on anything else.
right.
So after we finished Wild Hogs, I got calls from Bill Macy and everybody else saying they're now buying motorcycles and they,
Of
they're
course.
having a great time. So it was a lot of fun for me. I really had so much fun on that. It was one of my
Mm,
times looking back, thinking they probably could have done it. You wouldn't have to pay me anything to go do that movie because
yeah,
I got to ride my Harley to the set every single day, and that was a great part about that movie is just having fun.
that's awesome. Do you go ride with any of those guys after that movie
I
still?
I didn't I mean, Bill Macy, I had him he called me up and said he wanted to get his motorcycle permit and
Mhm,
could he borrow a motorcycle? So I put it on a trailer and took it over there and got him his motorcycle permit. But, on movies like this, we all go separate directions and
mhm,
everybody is always working. You really don't see the same people very often. And sometimes
right,
it all merges back together. You just never know. But
right.
I still ride motorcycles, all the time. I just got back from Costa Rica on a motocross ride with a friend of mine,
Wow,
and we did a 6-day ride down in Costa Rica, and it was a lot of fun.
that sounds amazing. Was that, because I think I've heard about that where you can actually go from, like, one coast to the other coast or something like that. Because
That's over. We did South America too, and that was an 18-day ride. And you start in Santiago, Chile, and you go between Chile and Peru, back and forth across, or Chile and Argentina, and you
mm,
keep going back and forth, coast to coast, down south, so you get as far south as you can go in the entire globe. You're
mhm,
as far south as you can go
you
in
can
a
go
place called Ushuaia, and they
mm,
take a picture at the farthest south in the continent, and it's pretty neat. But it's 18 days on a motorcycle,
wow,
and we had a blast. It was just a lot of fun. We had 7 stunt guys, and we just really had a great time.
wow, that does sound cool, man, yeah. Um, let's see here, there was another kinda funny story you were kinda telling us that I thought was kinda cool was, you had gotten gifted a couple of fire suits from a couple of the shows that you had worked on,
Oh yeah.
and, kind of funny incident sorta happened, with that, if you wouldn't mind sharing about that.
Yeah, I had done a picture, a movie of the week called The Fire Next Time, and it was about the end of the world. It was the whole world is they've got these huge firestorms and forest fires are on fire and hurricanes are hitting the coasts, and
Mhm,
it's just the climate is out of control. And so we had a big forest fire burn to do where these houses were going to be on fire and the trees were all burning. And I had about 6 stunt guys all in fire suits, these silver fire suits with full headpieces and full silver hands and boots, and
mm,
they're on oxygen, the whole 9 yards. And at the end
wow,
of the show, they gave me 2 suits and said, these are all fit for you. If you want to take them, go ahead and take them home. And I had taken them and put them in a Foot Locker and stored them in my garage and never thought anything about it. And then what happened was the Woolsey fire had taken place. And when the Woolsey fire took place near my house,
mm,
it was all encompassing. It looked like it was going to hit the house and there was nothing I could do.
how scary,
So
man.
I put this fire suit on, a full silver fire suit with everything. And I got out there and I have these things called pool pumps. And these pool pumps they're they're 5 horsepower Briggs and Stratton engines that one hose suction pumps. One hose goes into your pool and the other hose is a 200-foot fire hose, and
Wow,
you can extend the fire hose out and spray your house down full of water and spray down
mm,
things that are burning. Well, I have 4 of these pumps,
mm,
and my son and my nephew and I were fighting the fire when the Woolsey fire hit, and I was standing on the roof of my guest house, spraying down all of the trees as they were burning and putting them out. And then my son was down by the pool spraying out everything around the house. And then my nephew was had pulled a fire hose through the middle of the living room and out the other door and was spraying down the front of everything that
Wow.
was burning. So I had three full fire pumps working all the time with a fourth there as a backup. And luckily we were able to get everything burned around the house, but the house didn't burn.
That is amazing.
And
Wow.
I lost a couple of cars, I lost a couple of car trailers, but luckily, most of the stuff didn't burn. We had two 40-foot railroad cars full of my wife's possessions from when she was a child actress. She had put everything in there, and
Mm.
unfortunately that stuff all burned.
Oh,
But
man.
but the main house didn't burn, and the main garage didn't burn, and everything around us burned to the ground. And the only reason that that happened was that I had learned about these pool pumps from Bruce Jenner. And I have
Mm.
to go back and say that in the early 80s, they had a Malibu fire that was intensely bad, and it came through all of
Mhm.
Malibu. And I was friends with Bruce back then. And I said, I hear Malibu fire is getting close to your house. If I can get there, what do you want out of your house? And he said, get my gold medal and get the kids' baby pictures off of the staircase going up the stairs. There's all these
Mhm.
kid pictures on the walls. Just get all those and my gold medal. And if the house burns, the house burns. So I
Mhm.
got on my motorcycle and I jumped on it and I rode all the way down to Malibu. And I had to bust through the police barricade, and they chased me
Mhm.
for a little while, but
They
they
chased
can't
you?
catch they can't catch me on a motorcycle. And once we got into the heavy smoke, they just turned around. But I got to Bruce's house, and once I got to the house, I had a backpack, and I loaded all the pictures into the back of my backpack, and I found the gold medal, and I ran down there and put it in my backpack.
Huh.
And I saw his car sitting there, which was a lot cooler than any cars I had had. I thought about leaving my motorcycle there and going out in the car, but then I saw the pool pump in the garage. And I
Mm.
figured maybe this will work. And I stuck it out there, and I stuck one end in the pool, and I got it all cranked up, and I pulled the hose out and I got on his roof, and I fought the fire on his roof for
Really?
like 4 hours.
What?
And a lot of the houses around him burned to the ground, and
Oh,
his house was saved. One backside of his house got singed a little bit because this tree had caught fire, and it took me a while to get the tree out.
huh.
But that was what I had learned about pool pumps from saving Bruce Jenner's house.
Wow.
And the kind of weird thing about it was, as all the houses around him were burning, some guy came running over there and said, "You better get off the roof of the house. I've got 1,000 rounds or 5,000 rounds of ammunition in my garage," and my garage just went up.
Oh,
And so I kind
jeez.
of just went out on the backside of the chimney of his fireplace, and I heard all his ammunition going off. And it really, once ammunition goes off, it doesn't really do anything. But that was
Yeah.
kind of weird. But I
Huh.
learned about pool pumps because of Bruce Jenner, and I bought four of them, and that's what saved my house. So I'm still
Wow.
friends with Caitlyn Jenner now, and even in some of the fire scares that we have, we still call each other saying, "Is your house all right?" And we've
Yeah.
stayed in touch throughout all the years.
Wow. That's pretty cool. What an amazing story, man. Wow. To stand there and fight the fire like that, man, that must have been pretty scary, I would think. Because
Well, it's
I mean,
scary knowing that you have your son and your nephew there fighting with you at the same time, because
mhm,
I've seen fires and I know what they can do and what they can't, and they haven't.
mhm.
And so I literally had to turn to my son and my nephew and say, if the guest house goes up, we have to jump into the pool, and we'll just let the fire go over the top of
Around
us.
you. Smart.
And that's the only thing we can do, because we're never going to be able to outrun it. So we'll just get into the pool and stay low and take a breath every now and then. But that's the scary part, is knowing that at any time the guest house could catch fire. And that was the first thing that I knew. My main house, it probably wouldn't catch because it had a granite roof, but the
Mhm.
guest house has a regular, shingle roof, and it could
Right.
go up at any time. But we were keeping it pretty wet. I had a sprinkler system on my guest house and a sprinkler system that goes on my main house, so we're pretty protected, but only because of knowing about Bruce Jenner and how to fight fires. So
Mhm.
that's pretty weird.
Yeah, it is. It's a pretty never would have thought of that connection. But, um, let's see, we're getting pretty close on time here. So, real quick, because you have so many of these Taurus awards that you've won and have been nominated for them. Is there is there one that stands out to you, one you won or was nominated for that you really kind of
I
proud
think
over?
I think definitely Fast Five. Fast Five
Fast
is
Five.
probably one of the ones that is it's something that leaps and bounds far above what I thought we could really do because at the time when I started Fast Five, we were told by the studio that Fast Four didn't do as well as they expected, and
Mm,
Fast Five was going to be the end of the franchise. And let's just get through it and not get anybody hurt and finish with a bang and say we went out with our best movie. And at the time, they were going to make the vault, which was being pulled by two cars, all CGI. And
oh man.
Spiro Rosatos, the second director, and I was the stunt coordinator at the time, we spoke about trying to do it real. And we went to Neil Moritz, the executive producer on Fast and Furious, and said, give us a chance to try and do it for real. If I can pull a 9,000-pound vault with two cars, I
Mhm,
think it will really help make this feel more visceral. And he
mhm,
said, he laughed and he goes, you're never going to be able to pull a 9,000-pound vault with this thing. I said, let me just try. Give
mhm,
me a parking lot, give me two cars, and give me the effects guys, and let's see what we can do. And so
mhm,
for a solid week, we tried pulling around this 9,000-pound vault. And the first couple of days, we thought maybe Neil was going to be right because we pulled the bumpers off of both cars, and then we
mhm,
we were breaking cables and we were doing everything. But you learn from your mistakes, like I said before.
mhm,
And with the effects guys and with the knowledge that we had, we started figuring out how to make it work.
mhm,
We didn't want to lower the weight because we liked the fact that a 9,000-pound vault can do serious damage to things it hit.
mhm,
So we didn't want to drop the weight.
mhm.
So as
Yeah.
we got in there, we started figuring out how to put bungee cord between the cables. Like the cars, we put a whole frame around the car, built a frame like you would a roll cage frame, and then tied it to the roll cage so that it can't break.
Mhm,
But then we were breaking cables. So we put bungee cord, big shock cord, huge bungee cords in there. So that as the cables became taut, they would hit the bungee cord and then go to their extent, and then they
uh,
would loosen up and we
yeah.
wouldn't break cables.
Mhm,
So now we figured out how to do it, and now we had to figure out how to drive it around corners. So as two cars are coming around sliding this 9,000-pound vault, it's got a mind of its own. It slings out there on a pendulum
oh
and it
yeah.
just demolishes everything it hits. And in a big parking lot, the two stunt guys had to learn how to drive this thing and then get it back behind them. And
Wow.
so for the next solid week, that's all we did. But when we
Oh
got
yeah.
the video to Neil Moritz, he went crazy and said, "Oh my God," because we
Mm,
we had bought a couple of damaged cars and we tied them down. We sucked them down to the ground and tied them down by cables and let this 9,000-pound vault hit these two parked cars that were tied down by cables. And the destruction is just massive. And so he loved it. And so he started pumping in more time for us to rehearse. And that's where that whole chase came from. And I like the fact that sitting into a conference room, you have 10 to 12 producers and the Black Tower people from Universal, and everybody's there, and they're all saying they don't think this is possible. And
mhm,
to be able to do something that people think
mhm,
is impossible and to bring it to fruition and say, we could actually pull this off in the real world is where I get the adrenaline push now, as
mm,
opposed to where I got the adrenaline push when I was a stunt guy.
mm.
So that
Very
part of it is still the adrenaline push for me, but it's being able to do things that they say are impossible. And so
mm,
Fast Five, to be able to do all that real and to have so many things that safe could do, because we had a drivable safe where Henry Kinji got
a
into a
drivable
safe
safe.
that we
Really?
it was it was a pickup truck. We cut the back end off and brought the front end and the back end really close together. We just welded them back together
Mhm,
and made a shorter drive shaft. And
mm,
then we put the safe over the top of it and then gave him a little driving window look at it. And then we made both front wheels and back wheels steerable so that he had control of the back wheel to steer and the front wheel to steer so that it could crab and slide.
uh,
Because if all you had was the front wheels, it just looks like it's driving those
mhm,
ways. So you have to steer it to make it crab and looks like it's crabbing around like a sliding safe. So we
yeah,
use
wow.
that in situations where the safe had to be in a place that we couldn't hit things like
Mhm,
around the bank building.
I
We had to
see.
get really close to it, but we couldn't hit it, or around the bus full of children. We knew we couldn't risk the fact of sliding a
Right.
9,000 pound safe out there. So we put Henry Kidgey inside of it driving a truck, and we brought him really close to the bus and really out. But having an engine inside of the safe creates a lot of other problems. One, he can't breathe because all
Mhm.
of the exhaust, we couldn't find a way to get the exhaust completely outside of it. So
Yeah.
we had to put him in a helmet with a tube that came out the top of the helmet outside so he could
Oh.
breathe. And then it was super hot. So we put in dry ice to try
Wow.
and get that to make it cooler for him. So there's a lot of things you had to do.
Mhm.
But other than that,
You solve one
it
problem,
was a
but
lot
you
of fun.
create 2 more, kind of. Yeah.
And so the third thing we did was this was Sparrow's idea, which was genius, is we took a semi truck, just a semi truck without the trailer on it. We bought the smallest, shortest semi truck we could, and we put three sides of a vault around it. We built a three-sided vault, and we
Mhm.
stuck the semi truck in front of it. And now Mike Ryan, who was driving the semi truck, could be carried by cables of the two cars. He could drive it over and hit three or four cars all together and just plow through all of
Oh,
them.
nice.
And so we had three versions of what we could do with this safe, and all
Right.
three of them you see in the movie. We're using all three of them at different times throughout the whole movie. So that sequence is something I'm very proud of.
Yeah.
And the fact that Universal was able to give us the time to do it, and then we win a Taurus Award for the whole sequence, that was something that I'll never forget.
That is cool. Man, I'm so glad that they didn't do CGI for that and let you guys go ahead and do it practical.
Well, and I
So
think the
much
fact that
better.
we did it practically after that, Spider-Man started doing things more practical, and all these other movies
Mhm.
started saying, we want to do things that are practical stunts because what happens is you start seeing everybody that's watching you do it out on the streets that are just bystanders,
Mhm.
everybody has phones now. And all of those phones go to YouTube.
Yeah.
And then people see the stuff that we're doing.
Yeah.
It's advertisement for
It
the
is.
movie. And then they see that it's real, and then moviegoers want to go see what really happened and say, "Hey, I saw that on YouTube. I know how
Yeah.
they did it."
Yeah.
So I think that's a big advantage.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. Yeah. I hope that trend keeps going for a while, especially as we see, the AI coming, on the scene and seemingly threaten some of our work, nowadays. So, I hope some of those, things that you laid down in the past there will be carried on in the future and people appreciate practical. I mean, and it's now to the point where AI can make things look so good that it's really hard to tell, sometimes impossible to tell. But even so, it's just the idea, that that's real people doing real stuff and the
Yeah.
real laws of physics, that I think just takes it to a whole nother level.
Well, and I think the audience members that are watching the movie, they want to believe it's real, and I think AI will
Mhm.
be a thing for 2 or 3 years, and
Mm.
then people are going to get desensitized to the fact that they didn't see any YouTube videos of how they made this, and they didn't see, even when they start doing AI actors, they're going to say, "Where's the red carpet and where's all these people
Yeah,
beforehand?" And
yeah,
I think it's going to be a big hit for 2 or 3 years, but then I think the viewing audience is going to want to see reality
I
again,
think
and I
so.
think it'll turn around.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I totally agree, and I hope so too.
Yeah, I hope so
Yeah.
too as well.
Um, well, we're looks like we're out of time. I don't want to keep you past our schedule here, and because I know you're busy, and I really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to sit down with me and share some stories.
Sure.
And um, I hope we can have you back sometime because I know we just barely scratched the surface with your career and your life and everything that you've done. So I look forward to maybe having you back sometime. We can cover some more stuff. But
All right.
thank you so much for being with us today, Jack. Appreciate it.
You bet. And I'd love to do it again. It was a lot of fun. Thanks again.
All
All right.
right.
See ya.
See ya. You have a great day.
All right. You too. Bye bye.
Okay. Bye bye.